And 3, 2, 1.
Well, Norm, you're a legend in your own time. You built the biggest Dodge dealer in the world, is that right?
That's right.
Now, did you always know you're going to have the largest Dodge dealership in the world, or how did it start?
Never even thought I'd be selling Dodges. We started off in the gas station with my father on the corner of Grand and Spalding. And it was one story after another how we got started. We knew the gas station business wasn't for us at that time, and my brother and I started selling used cars in the gas station. And
how old were you when you started selling used cars?
16.
16.
16. And then we purchased the lots right behind the gas station, and my brother and I, we dug the hose, we put the electrical in, and at that time it was in 1951. And we started selling used cars over there. And it was about 1956, we were establishing ourselves as a used car dealer, and we had a body shop in the back. We had an old barn that was there. And this adjuster comes in and says, "Norm, will you sell this car for me?" So I said, "What car is that?" So he says, "Well, come on out and by the curb and take a look at it." So I went to the curb and took a look at it. I said, "You crazy?" It was a '56 Chevy convertible stick, but it was like a wavy day on Lake Michigan. The front windshield was crooked in the car. I mean, it was terrible. I said, "I'm not taking this. I can't sell something like this." I said, "Maybe if you sign a disclaimer, we'll talk about it." Finally, it took about 4 weeks, and he talked it into me. I said, "Well, you take the car, you clean it up, get it all ready, and I'll put an ad in the paper." So we made up a little 3-line ad. That's all we could afford at that time. I think it cost about $10, $12. And then we had a Chev 56 convertible V8 stick. And when we were making up the ad, we put my cousin's name in it, Seymour. That didn't fit. There wasn't enough lines in the ad. And Lenny didn't fit, and they happened to put Mr. Norm. That fit.
So you became Mr. Norm because it's short and sweet,
yeah,
right?
right. And then the next morning when that ad appeared, the phone was coming off the hook. It was just one call after another. "What do you have over there?" Told them what I had here. Told them it was, it was fixed. It was repaired. Good running car. They came over. The car was sold immediately. And that same morning, while the people were calling, my brother happened to call in. I said, "Buy all the sticks, all the 4-speeds, anything in performance you can get your hands on."
The light bulb went on.
It went on immediately.
V8 stick was the combination.
It didn't make any difference. If we get our hands on a 4-speed, or if we, the Pontiac had, or the '57 Chevy had the fuel injection.
The fuelies.
It was an automatic. Whatever we get our hands on, we got our hands on. We bought every one of them. We were bringing within 2 weeks. We must have had about 60, 70 sticks on the lot.
Well, most of the other dealers didn't want them, right?
Nobody wanted them. The new car dealers were taking them in a trade, so will you help us out? Sure, but there's no market on it. we would tell them. They would lower the price, and we get ourselves a good purchase. So it started out very nicely like that. And we were selling them all day. We were advertising to Mr. Norm, and it started to grow, and the name started to get around throughout the city and the automobiles, all about if you want a performance car, go see Mr. Norm.
Well, those were the days of WLS and Larry Lujak.
Well, that started a little later. Dodge started coming into us in the late 50s, okay? And would we like to take on a Dodge ticket, what do you have to offer as far as a car? We like the performance business that we're in. And they really couldn't show us anything. So, well, when you'll get something, you came in. Well, a couple years later, they came in, I think it was in the latter part of '61, they came in and said, "We have Angles that's designing a new car for us with the '63 330, and they showed us the line of the engines, the Ram Chargers and so forth. And
that was serious, pretty serious performance.
That was serious. So we did sign up for the ticket, and that was in '62. And I forgot the person's name who was the head of Dodge at that time, but he almost lost his job because when they signed us up, we didn't have a showroom, nor did we have a service department. But what we did do is we rented a corral, and we put it around where the gas station was on our property on the corner of Grand and Spalding, and we put 5 Dodges in there, and that is the same area where the showroom has always been. That was put
But it
up.
started out as a corral?
It started off as a corral, and we started selling the cars just like a used car dealer. We say you're in good hands, don't worry, and we'd sell them a car, okay? But we were the ones that were the principals in it, and we were out there selling. We loved to sell, we loved to work with people, and we got it going. The next spring, we was a part of the contract to put up a service department. and we put up a service department, and there was, I think, about 18 stalls and a parts department. And we finished it sometime in middle of summer, like in June, and by the time we finished, we had to sign another contract to enlarge it and double the service department. It started going so fast because what we were doing was selling those Ram Chargers, and you know, we're coming in the 383, 330s, and the 430s, and that was our business. You know, when we first started off, our first order was 50 Ram Chargers.
Wow.
The sales rep says, "Don't worry." I said, "What do you mean, don't worry?" He says, "I'll send you in 15 at a time. 15 next week. Take a couple weeks, I'll send you 15 more." Well, you know what happened. They all came in at the same time. It was snowing. It was cold. You know, none of the cars would start on the truck. So we got an education. We learned all about them.
Well, you always did pretty much catered to kids and performance. Fun
That was
cars,
our whole
is that
business.
right?
When we started off in the performance business, they were all young fellas. And don't forget, I was only about 28 at that time. And they were our customers.
So you
and
could
I
relate.
enjoyed it. And we were all the same age. They were from 18 to 40. You know, we had a lot of older guys that were buying. You know, they were all older than us. There were, you know, a lot of professional people like the performance car and so forth. Everybody had a need for what they wanted. We tried to, and we supplied that need.
Well, now you fielded some pretty serious drag cars, the Superchargers and stuff. Have you always been a drag racer, a drag race enthusiast?
Didn't even know what a drag strip was. We sold a Ram Charger to one of our customers. His name was Clyde Hopper from the south side of Chicago. He was there on a Saturday morning. I was standing in the back, and he came up to me. He says, "Norm, I'll put your name on my car if you give me a set of plugs and a set of seat covers." I said, "Where are you going with the name on your car?" He says, "To the drag strip." I said, "What's that?" He said, "The amphitheater. They got an eighth of a mile drag strip. 2 cars race against one another." I said, "Oh, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun." So I called over to Denny, who was our parts director at that time. I said, "Give him the parts he wants." And he put up a sign on the car, and they ran Sunday afternoon. By the time we closed Sunday and Monday, we sold 5 cars off those races. And at that day, we knew about drag racing. We even talked about it. I said, "Here we were selling cars for 7 years with all these performance guys, all these Chevys.
Where were they going?
Where are they going?" Nobody ever mentioned a word about it. But that's right after that we started to get into it, and we started to put a race car together. I met Gary Dyer, and this to us was, he was the man behind everything with performance. He was a very knowledgeable guy, just a super individual. He's the best they come. Gary and I raced on a handshake for 12 years.
Well, you also took a real unique approach and philosophy to that racing, whereas usually there's an awful lot of trade secret and stuff that goes on there. You were pretty open.
Well, we were open about everything because what we wanted to do, we wanted to offer everything to our customer. And we would go out there. One night we broke a 4-speed, threw the drive shaft right out of it. And, "Gary, what happened here?" He explained to me what happened. The next day we were building traction bars, strictly for the Mopars. And we had a bulletin. If you bought a car from us, you became a member of Mr. Norm's Sport Club, which became a very big thing because everybody that bought a car became a member. They got a free power tune. We curved the distributor and dynoed the car, and that was all part of the sale. And then when we did the traction bar was part of the sale too. So everything, it became performance-proven know-how. Everything we picked up on the track, we brought it into the dealership and applied it to our customers, and that's how the Mr. Norm Sport Club got started. And then one of our customers was writing for us. He would come in once a month to me or my brother. We would sit down, give him all the information that he wanted, and would draw it up. Plus, we'd have current events on there. We'd had a Mr. Norm Sport Club evening. We'd have a social affair, but we had to cut that off because we blocked up the city of Chicago with all the customers coming in. We blocked up the streets. We blocked up our service department. It became a very costly thing. So we, through the times there, we started having our social events at the tracks. Like one evening we raced Arnie Beswick at Rockford Dragway.
Arnie the farmer.
Right. We put up 2 searchlights. That was in '65. Gary and Ron was coming to me. I came to the track about 6:30, and he said, "My God," he says, "what if I don't get enough people?" I said, "Don't worry." I said, we came up there up the road, the expressway, and there's plenty of the customers coming in here. And we tagged all the ads on WLS. Everybody, you know, remembers WLS.
I grew up on it.
We were running at Rockford Dragway on so-and-so date. It was out in our bulletin, going out to all the customers that we were running there. I said, "Don't worry." You know, he was starting to get me a little worried about it all of a sudden. So, well, what happened? It all turned up. Bottom line, about 7:30 that night, they all started coming in. The state police were called out. There was so much traffic on the roads coming into Rockford Dragway. He could not handle the crowd. We postponed the race for a half hour so everybody could get in. He had the biggest crowd he ever had. I had the Buckinghams there for the club members singing for Mr. Norm. He was behind the stands and they were dancing and they were having a great time. We did the races. We had a great show that night. And then we rented a beach about 2 miles before Rockford Dragway. They have a man-made beach over there. We rented a beach and for all the club members to go have a party after the races. I can't tell you how the party was because we couldn't get in. It was so crowded. They were parked along the roads. Anywhere they could park, they were parked. There was just thousands of people went into that thing. But we found out from the customers in the next week that they all had they all had a good time.
Now the Buckinghams, actually, you did a record with them, didn't you? Or something?
Yeah, we did a record. They were singing for us. They opened up our ads. They were performance buffs. We sold them a few 440s. They had a '69 Dart 440. And we would take care of it, and I cut a deal with them. You sing for us, I'll take care of your car. So, you know, it helped them out, it helped us out, and, you know, it became a very famous group after that. They were they were nice guys, and we all related together, you know. They would hang around the place. All our customers hung around the place. We used to go to the track, and I used to take slide pictures of all the customers, okay? Whether they were getting in the car, whether they were fixing something, whether they were talking to their girlfriend, talking to a boyfriend, whatever the case was, I would take slides. Then in the parts department, in our service department, we knocked a hole out on the ceiling there. We had a second floor, and we bought one of those cameras that automatically shows the slides, and we shot it across the service department on the wall, and they used to come in to see themselves. And everybody, when they were waiting for service or having something done, it was a fun place for them. The parts fellas just got out of Vietnam. They were in their early 20s. Mm-hmm. You know, we were all in our 20s. The whole place was a youthful place, and that's where Kids Are Kings came from. Because when Detroit saw what we were doing over there, they came to our place to see what was going on, and they knew right away, and they started putting it into stories. But we were already training our salesmen, you know.
Now, was that a slogan or was that a philosophy?
There was a philosophy in our place here, and both a slogan.
And it became a slogan.
It became that, because we wouldn't let anybody talk to a performance customer unless he went through training. Mm-hmm. And we handpicked the salespeople that would sell the performance cars. They had to be young, they had to be sharp, they had to be aggressive, they had to be knowledgeable. If you didn't have any of those traits, don't even try. Okay, and we all learned about the gears and the cams, and you know, and that's where Gary came in. I would meet with Gary every year, and what this man taught me in a year would take 10 years for anybody else. For me, for anybody else to go out there and want to learn things, it would take me 10 years. Okay, but with Gary, within 6 months, I was writing up repair orders for the cars. I was giving them different combination with cam, with gear, with this. Tell me how you want to run. What do you want to do? And then I would tell them the setup that I would recommend. And this is what we did for it. We wouldn't charge our customers for that. We charged for the work that was part of the service department. But any way we could help the customer. And they would help us. They would all bring their friends in, buy cars. You know, it was just a very close thing. We used to go out together. We used to meet at, you know, for a drink or for dinner. You know, it was a
big family.
It was a good relationship. It was like a big family. It wasn't a relationship that you normally have in a dealership. No. Okay. These a lot of even the people that I talked to here yesterday, and I hear I'm 2,000 miles away from home. They got pictures of their cars that they bought from me. I mean, they're introducing me to their children. They're introducing me to the grandchildren. So if I had one customer, then I got the potential now for 3. I mean, that's great. You know, can't beat that.
That's the way to do business. Now you fielded the Superchargers were some pretty competitive. Did some pretty competitive racing. Tell me a little bit about the Superchargers.
Well, when we first started off, and we were running a Super Stocker, and all of a sudden, all our customers wanted to run against us. This is not what we're going into the high performance business for. And then I met Gary on the track one time. He was running for Mercury Factory at that time. And I met him on the track, and we just hit it off together. We talked there for hours and hours, and by the end of the evening, we shook hands. He was coming over, and we're going to build a supercharger, and that was late in '64.
'64, huh?
Yeah, and then in the early part of '65, we went out with our first supercharger. We had nobody to race except Arnie. He built a supercharger too, and we were running against. But I can't run them every week, so they had us against Ohio George. The AA gassers and Tasmanian and different names like that. So I met everybody the first 6 months, okay? And that was fun. It was a privilege to meet all these people. I had a lot of fun with them. We got along fabulously. And met all these people all around the country and had good times. And then, that's how we got going in the supercharger. And then, what happens when you're running a supercharger on a car, and we said, let's build a funny car. At that time they called it a Super FX or something like that. We said, we don't even want that. We want anything goes. Let's go, against General Motors. Let's go against Ford, Arnie, Don Gay, all the guys that were out on the track in those years. And that's what we did. We wanted a match race car. And that's how we ended up, and that's what Gary's been working on for all those years that he raced with us. Plus he was the director of performance in our place. Each year when the engines would come out, we'd run it on a dyno. And Gary would set up the specs for the service department, because every car that went out was dyno tuned, distributor curved, carburetor rejetted. When these cars came in at about 175 horsepower on the dyno, we did it in front of the customer when they bought the car. So when they went out, the car registered 300, some registered 320. It gets a person excited. I get excited watching it.
I'm excited.
You're proud of you're proud of having a dealership, and you take a car that's running 175 horsepower, and then boom, all of a sudden it's putting out 300 horsepower. Then we fix them up at the traction bar. Then if they want header, they want wheels, slicks, whatever they wanted. I came to the SEMA here. That was the first show in '65. Denny, the parts manager, said, Norm, there's a place in California. They sell all the performance parts. So what's the name? He says SEMA. So what's that? So what I know, what's a drag strip? What's SEMA? Well, we came out here. We met Edelbach. We met Krager. We met Milladon, Simpson. Met them all. Opened up accounts. Some of them said that we can't sell to a dealer. I said, what do you mean you can't sell to a dealer? Well, you don't order enough. I said, wait a minute. I don't have the space to put a lot in. But let's not count our chickens before they hatch. We'll see how much we order. You send the wheels in, okay? And we'll sell the wheels. And what's the difference if I make 4 orders a month or you send in 1 order at the end of the month? I don't have the space, but as they go out, they could be coming in. And it worked out, and everybody was happy, and we were selling everything that we could sell. We even had parachutes for the street, anything that we could make up. We made up for the customers. They had a Skippy's Drive-In on North Avenue, and we had a lot of our customers used to go there on a Friday night, and they all used to like to have a little fun. So I called up Simpson out here, and they made me up a little chute for the street. We packed a couple on a few of the customers' cars. They drove by Skippy's, popped the chute, and Mr. Norm's Sport Club.
That must have been a hit.
Well, we had a lot of fun, and the customers came in with ideas, and we had our own ideas of what we wanted to do, and we listened to every one of them. Every one of them wanted to work in the place, but we could only hire so many of them. Every person that we had in that dealership was a customer of ours that was in performance, that bought a performance car. And then I took them in and I trained them, whether it would be for parts or whether it be for sales, whatever the situation was, we trained them. Because these were some good people. There's nothing more better than a Mopar fan.
Oh,
these
they're
dedicated.
Dedicated.
People,
that's a good word.
And they were lovers, and we had a good time. They wanted their cars to be quick, and whatever the situation was, that's what we gave to them.
Well, of course, Mopar was synonymous with performance, with the Hemis and everything, and it kind of peaked around 1970, and then the insurance and regulations started coming in. How'd that affect you?
Nothing affected us, except when regulation came in '73. You couldn't touch a carburetor, you couldn't put a set of headers on the car, but right away we transferred right over into fleet, and into building custom vans, which you have customize your van conversion companies nowadays. We were doing that in the dealership in '73. The next day we were starting to get calls on the phone. Can I get my carburetor rejetted? And we said, no, we can't do that anymore. We're a dealer and we can't do those adjustments. We were into vans the next day. We were into fleet sales the next day.
Now, were you building performance vans, or were you just building conversions?
Vans, it was the beginning of the van market. First of all, if we could get a 440 engine in a van, we had it there. You know that. If we could get a Hemi in a van, we would have had it there. Yeah. But going back a little further, I really jumped over quite a bit here. Through the performance days in the dealership, what a lot of people remember is the cars that we built in the place. And we even had some of our customers help us build those cars, like the 383 Dart. I didn't think in '67 that really Mopar did enough for our performance people, our customers, that there had to be something else. And I talked to Dodge about that at that time, and they just said that you can't put a 383 in a Dart.
You want to bet?
That's what we said. Right? Well, we went back to the showroom and we put a 383 in the Dart, and then we took that car to Detroit. And I remember what the head of Dodge said. We were at Hamtramck there, and he picked up a phone and he said, "I want you engineers to come down here." So when they came down with their pipes in their hand with their caps on, and he said, "I want you to look at this car." He said, "These are the kids from Chicago," because we were two young fellas at that time. We put the 383 in the Dart, and the Chrysler did it. And it's just amazing how many of the Mopar fans have those cars today and still talk about it. And then the next year we did with the 440, and then the Hemi, and then we went to the six-pack in '71, and then we went to the '72 Supercharger. We brought the Supercharger to the street in 1972.
Now, Norm, the 413 Max Wedge was kind of before you were playing performance, is that right?
Right.
So what was the first engine that you kind of took under your wing and hopped up?
It was a 383 in '63 and the 426 13.5 to 1.
And the Hemi itself, I mean, what's your feeling?
Well, when the Hemi came out, this was the answer to everything, and everybody wanted a Hemi. In fact, the first car that I ever had, I got a call from Dodge, and they said, I happen to have, the Hemis are coming out now, and I happen to have a convertible, a Dodge 500, Coronet 500 convertible. It was a burgundy one with black buckets. I said, send it in,
With a Hemi.
Can you imagine, it was the first car off the line, the only one that was sent to us, the only one in captivity, and I sold it. You say, do you know everything? No, we don't know everything.
Well, what, from a performance angle, what was the Hemi? What all did you do to a Hemi?
Well,
or did you have to do anything to a Hemi?
Well, there wasn't much to do with a Hemi for depending on what the purpose of, what they wanted to do with the car. They would come in and say, I wanted to drive it on the street, I wanted to drive it on the street and track, or I want to drive it on the track. You had three basic combinations. Our number one, the only problem that we ever had with the Hemi was keeping it alive because of the rod bearings in there. The rod bearings, they weren't large enough. They weren't passing enough oil for a stock engine. So what we did is every Hemi that came in, when we found this out, because there was a lot of problems right at the beginning, when we found this out, when the cars came in, we changed and we put 383 bearings because Gary found out that the 383 rod bearing had a larger oil groove and a larger hole, and it would pass enough oil, and it took away the problem right away. So we put the rod bearings in the car.
Swap them over?
Just switched them over. Got a set of 383 rod bearings, put it in a Hemi, and it lived. Now it was good for the street. And then whatever application they wanted to do, they want to put a set of headers on there, they want to take it to track, would have the traction bar on there, would go in. We had cams made up for us through Crawler, and would do competition valve jobs on them, would work over the carburetors on them, would set up the Milodon oil system in there. So we went right through it. We even enhanced the automatic on there. What you have today, the same thing we've done on a lot of the cars, the old 727 torque flight transmission. We worked on that so they'd have a quick shift for the track. So we went through whatever they would want, we were capable of doing. We had specialization in the performance shop. We didn't want the transmission man to know how the dyno man set up the engine. And we didn't want the dyno man to know what we did with the headers or the traction bar. And we didn't want the oil man to know what anyone was doing in there. So I sat down with all these people because I didn't want them to take the knowledge that we had out of our shop and spread it over every place. So what I did is sat down and said, look, you're going to handle the transmissions. And we had a transmission specialist over there. This man would do nothing but transmissions. We had a gear specialist. Dale Creasy, that I saw him run at the NHRA Nationals. He used to do all the rear ends in our place. He used to come in. One of Arnie Beswick's wrenches at a time was running our dyno. We had anybody, you know, that would come in there. And I'd rather have a guy from the drag strip doing work at my service department. You know, I seen him change engines for in a half hour and be ready for the next run. You know, with some of the mechanics, as you go in the service department, you know, they wanted to do a repair engine, it'd take them 6 days. You know, so I was happy to get any of the guys that wanted to come in part-time. And the other mechanics were really envious. And I said, look, there's nothing for you to think about. It's not your choice to think. We had to set the law in there. I didn't want anybody going out of our department with any high-performance knowledge going out of there. You want to know, you want to tell people what you're doing on transmissions, that's okay with me. But he's not going to know how we set up those distributors and calibrate them and set the car up on the dyno. He's not going to know that.
Now, there really wasn't like a standard Mr. Norm performance package. It sounds like it's more a la carte. Tell me what you want to do with the car, right?
We had a menu. What do you want to do? You know, you're the customer. You know what you want. You know what your application is. Tell me what you want to do, and I'll sit down and tell you what I recommend. Okay? That's all I did. I didn't say you had to do this or you do that. This is what I recommend from everything that Gary taught me, and then I'm going to tell you. This is what I recommend for the car.
Whether it's street, whether it's strip, whether it's...
However they wanted to drive. You know, some guys say, I want to put a 489 in the car. I say, what are you, nuts? Come on now. You don't use no 489 on the street, you know. Things like that. You had to sit down, and you had to explain to them, you know. And they were talking about 3/4 cams. I said, what's a 3/4 cam? Because I knew enough about cams already. I said, what is it? I said, you know, you want a certain degree on the cam? We had cams made up for us. We used a lower degree cam and a higher lift cam. The engine lived, the engine was powerful, and all we needed was a 391 or a 410 gear to take the car out of the gate, and everybody was happy with that. We had Hoosier make us up tires, softer compound. He says, you know, these aren't going to last too long. I said, the kids want bite. They know it's going to last. They want to drive the car on that with the tires on the street, that's fine by me. They want to drive it on the track, they can use it. So we sold them a couple extra wheels, they had it mounted on the track. They could do what they wanted to it. They knew about it, they were explained about it, how to handle it. We had the wheels there. We had everything there. Our parts department was about 40 feet long, and they had 2 floors. And there it was about 30 feet deep. So we had about 2,500 feet of parts department, which was large at that time. Under today's standards, it's probably barely enough room for anything. But we had, everything was hanging out in front. We had a billboard in front of our parts department. All the pictures that we've taken, we made copies of them, and we did our whole parts department with all the customers. Customers come in, and they would look at all this collage of pictures, see their picture here, see their picture there. You know, they would sign and put their initials on it and stuff like that.
Great.
When Dodge came out with a drag racing strip, don't you think we had one right on? You know, they had a game back in the '60s, and we put one right in the front of the parts department, so all the guys, they could compete against one another. And then whoever the winner was, I would go back there and race. We put on our helmets and we got the little switches over there. But you know, it was done in good, clean fun, and they just loved it. I had a good time doing it. This was a fun operation.
Well, Norm, what was your favorite performance engine? Or do you have one?
The one that had the most pickup? See, when you say the most favorite performance engine, which one had the most impact on the media? That would be the the first one that came out would be the '67 Dart, the 383. That captured the imagination of the public right away. I would say the next best one would be the supercharged Demon. That really caught the imagination of the public there. You know, but we would set up anything in that place. Whether they wanted quads, cross-ram manifold, high-rise, it didn't make any difference to us. You know, what are you going to use it for? That's fine. You got the right idea. Go ahead and do it, okay? And we had all the parts. We were in direct connection out here, you know, in Los Angeles there. We were having everything shipped into us.
Norm, I mean, Mr. Norm was king when performance was king through the 60s and 70s. There was just no question about it. Regulations came in and you started doing vans, but on through the 70s and 80s and 90s, what is Mr. Norm up to through those times?
Well, Mr. Norm was, you know, racing for 12 years. I was away from my family. My kids were starting to grow up. They were, you know, it was in the 60s and early 70s, and I actually retired in '77. And my brother continued on with the business. And I had things to do, places to go, things that I wanted to get done with my life, because ever since I was 16 years old, we worked every day, we worked hard, we had a good time with it, and now I wanted to be with my family. And I'm very happy that I did what I did. I have a beautiful family. I got 3 children, 9 grandchildren now. So we had a lot of fun, but you know, now I did what I had to do. Now I'm at the age, what else can I do but work with cars?
So what you working on?
Huh?
What are your latest
we have
projects?
these packages here. I met this fellow, Larry Weiner. And to me, he's a marketing genius. He's a wonderful person. He came into the place one day, and we started talking. I was so, you know, if you talk to Larry Weiner, you get as impressed with him as I did, okay? And I talked to him, and he wanted to get involved with the Mr. Norm's memorabilia and do different promotions, different things. I said, well, why don't we come out with do something with performance again? And he just, you know, he says, well, I didn't want to rush it on you. But anyway, after talking with him for an hour, we got a deal, just like with Gary Dyer. We've been together ever since, and we just came out with the 97 pickup truck that we put the Kenny Bell supercharger on.
Well, what are all the features of this?
Well, we have
here?
race truck trends that we have a group, we call it Performance West, which is Larry Weiner, the coordinary, race truck trends, and Bell Supercharger. And between this group here, they put out this pickup truck here. And what we have here, we have a styling package on it, which identifies to Performance West, and we have a performance package in there. You can call it a conversion, call it what you will, but it's a nice package. It runs beautifully. It's got, what we did is we made it a collector's item. From the 67 Dart through the 72 Demon, that all these people have these cars, and they appreciated 20 times cost over here, that they have a Mr. Norm's performance car. We said, why not bring out a collectible? And that's what we did. We brought out a limited editional collectible 97 Dodge truck that is running through 97, 98 to the, and when we reach 300, it's turned off. We collect all the names, all the vehicle numbers in a data bank. It's something that was never done before, because who thought of it back in the 60s? We didn't think about it. It's a good thing I kept all the records, because they can call Larry and they can find out if they have a car that was purchased from us. So what records he has, he could research it and find out. So he says, let's start this from the beginning. And we performed, working with race truck trends, and working with Bell with the superchargers. These are the greatest people that you ever want to meet. And we decided halfway through this thing, let's call it the Performance West Group. And where we got that name was, I was Performance East, right? Now we're Performance West.
I love it. Now how about this other?
Well, this one we just, well, we got this one, Kenny Bell got this project here. And, you know, they had 4 weeks to put a package together of this. So we got Larry and Frank together from Race Truck Trends, and Larry from Performance West, the coordinator, and the coordinator of everything, and he put this package together overnight.
Well, that is one looking sport,
you know, and
utility.
they won the outstanding design.
Really?
Yeah, they got the award last night. I'm very proud for them, because they all work so hard, you know, at it. You know, they won't let me. They won't even let me put a rag on the car now. I'm the senior citizen of the group now.
Well, what's under the hood of
Larry
that?
and Frank, and we got a supercharger under there. We got a 360 engine under there. We lowered the truck. We put the styling package on there. We got the 18-inch wheels and tires on there. We got a lot of sponsors that are working with us on these trucks there, and we're going on to do more now. We're not stopping here. We're going to take on the total market now.
Now, is this one here going to be another 300 limited edition?
Well, this year they don't have enough. Okay, they are just selling these cars here. It depends. I probably would say 90% we're shifting that way. That yes, it will be a package that will be limited and data banked. Okay?
Classics of the future.
Right, and this is what we're taking on for the future here. Where there's a performance package, there's a collectability item, and it's a Mr. Norm's Performance West program. And these guys are carrying it out, and they're just doing a fantastic job.
So, Norm, you've only been doing this for what, 40 years or so?
48 years. I was the youngest dealer when I got started. When we ordered those 50 Ram Chargers, He's 28 years old.
Are you looking forward to 48 more?
Absolutely. I wouldn't miss this for anything. I love every minute of it. I meet these customers out here. When they come up to me and talk to me about the old times, just lights me up and charges my battery. I just enjoy it. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for a Mopar fan.
I'm telling you, Norm, you are a legend. And it's,
well, thank you.
It's just been an honor having this interview with you.
Well, I enjoyed it too. I want to say hello to all the Mopar fans out there.
And out.
Norm Kraus, who is known as Mr. Norm by enthusiasts around the world, was not a designer or engineer in the traditional automotive sense. But he and his Grand-Spaulding Dodge dealership produced some of the most well-known performance cars of the muscle car era. In 1948, at the age of 16, he and his brother Len started selling used cars at their father's service station at the corner of Grand and Spalding in Chicago. Their big break came in 1956 when the boys ran a newspaper ad for a Chevy convertible with a V8 and stick shift. The reaction to the ad was overwhelming and showed them selling used performance cars was the wave of the future.
It was just one call after another. What do you have over there? Told them what I had here. Told them it was, it was fixed, it was repaired. Good running car. They came over. The car was sold immediately. And that same morning, while the people were calling, my brother happened to call in. I said, buy all the sticks, all the 4-speeds, anything in performance you can get your hands on.
The name Mr. Norm also grew out of the newspaper ad because the boys wanted to save money. So they came up with the name Mr. Norm's because it was short.
And we were selling them all day. We were advertising the Mr. Norm, and it started to grow, and the name started to get around throughout the city and the automobiles, all about if you want a performance car, go see Mr. Norm.
By 1962, they were so well known that Dodge approached the boys about getting into the new car business. They hesitated at first, but then signed on, and over the next 2 years built a showroom and service department. It was in that new service department that Norm was introduced to the world of drag racing by a customer.
He was there on a Saturday morning. I was standing in the back, and he came up to me. He says, Norm, I'll put your name on my car if you give me a set of plugs and a set of seat covers. I said, where are you going with the name on your car? He says, to the drag strip. I said, what's that? He said, the amphitheater. They got an 1/8 mile drag strip. 2 cars race against one another. I said, oh yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So I called over to Denny, who was our parts director at that time. I said, give him the parts he wants. And he put up a sign on the car, and they ran Sunday afternoon. By the time we closed Sunday and Monday, we sold 5 cars off those races.
In 1965, Mr. Norm teamed up with driver Gary Dyer, and together they took the drag racing world by storm. Back at the dealership, they were taking what they were learning at the strip and selling it to customers of new Dodge cars. This all-out performance image made Grand-Spaulding Dodge the largest Dodge dealer in the country. Their slogan was, "Kids are king."
You know, they would come in and say, I wanted to drive it on the street, I wanted to drive it on the street and track, or I wanted to drive it on the track. You had three basic combinations. I didn't think in '67 that really Mopar did enough for our performance people, our customers, that there had to be, something else. And I talked to Dodge about that at that time, and they just said you can't put a 383 in a Dart. We went back to the showroom, and we put a 383 in the Dart. And then we took that car to Detroit. And I remember what the head of Dodge said. We were at Hamtramck there, and he picked up a phone, and he said, I want you engineers to come down here. So when they came down with their pipes in their hand with their caps on, and he said, I want you to look at this car. He said, these are the kids from Chicago. Because we were 2 young fellas at that time. We put the 383 in the Dart, and the Chrysler did it. And it's just amazing how many of the Mopar fans have those cars today and still talk about it. And then the next year we did with the 440, and then the Hemi, and then we went to the the 6-pack in '71, and then we went to the '72 Supercharger.
In 1973, government regulations put a stop to dealers performing mechanical modifications to new cars. Grand-Spaulding Dodge quickly switched to fleet sales and van conversions to make a living. The performance age was gone, and so were Mr. Norm's muscle car creations. 4 years later, Mr. Norm retired and sold his share of the dealership to his brother. He's been inducted into both the Mopar and Funny Car Halls of Fame. Today, he's back in the performance business with Performance West, selling low-volume, high-performance vehicles like this supercharged Dodge truck.
I wouldn't miss this for anything. I love every minute of it. I meet these customers out here, when they come up to me and talk to me about the old times, just lights me up and charges my battery. I just enjoy it. There isn't anything I wouldn't do for a Mopar fan.